What did you make of the latest doom and gloom from the IPCC and from the UN?
Well, the mad millenarian rhetoric we're getting from them is increasingly at odds with the scientific evidence. Climate change is happening more slowly than all the models have predicted, pretty well all the models. I can show you that for sea surface temperature, for global average temperatures, for US summer temperatures. You run the suite of models as to what should have happened by now, and the outcome is at the bottom of the chart. So it's happening more slowly. The effect on storms, droughts, floods is very hard to define at all. And meanwhile, the benefits of extra carbon dioxide in the air in terms of global greening, more vegetation on the planet, more food for insects and wildlife, etc., that's being underestimated. So if you run an honest analysis of the social cost of carbon, how much damage is climate change doing, and that was done by a group of scientists in a peer-reviewed paper just 2 years ago, it turns out to be negative. In other words, there's more harm than good so far, and likely to be so till 2050.
Matt Ridley, the trouble with this interview is we won't be able to put this on YouTube because this is climate disinformation. You are a climate denier. I've never understood what that means. You cannot put this out. You don't accept how serious this is, and frankly, you're a conspiracy theorist. That is what we will be told. And there'll be Ofcom complaints, not the accepted science on climate change. I mean, it's not accepted, it's still a theory for a start. But this is the thing, you can't have a proper sensible conversation about the actual facts anymore, because even when there are facts, a lot of these documents, the IPCC actual scientific documents, the reports that go into these reports, they do contain facts. Some of them, a lot of it is climate modelling. Not entirely sure that we should be taking paying much attention to modelling after we saw what happened with COVID. But actually, a lot of the stuff that we get into the media, the reports and the wonderful rhetoric of people like Antonio Guterres, that's not based on the science that's actually in the report they're talking about at all.
Well, that's right. There's a big contrast between what's in the actual reports and what gets turned into headlines in the summary for policymakers and other documents like that. These are mostly written by activists. They use ridiculous hype, and they are all about forecasts. Notice they're always telling us that we're going to see terrible storms, droughts and floods in the future. We're going to see terrible disruption of the world as a result of climate change. Now, they were telling us that in the 1990s, and I was covering this topic in the 1980s. I was science editor of The Economist at the time. I believed it then. I take it with a great deal of salt now, because I've seen for 40 years these predictions not come true. Let me give you one example. Greta Thunberg, in 2018, she said that within 5 years, if we didn't stop using fossil fuels immediately, within 5 years, all of humanity will be extinct, or will be doomed. I can't remember which word she used. Right. Now, that 5 years is up in June this year. So you and I, Julia, have only got 2.5 months left on the planet, which is a pity.
I know, I had lots of plans of places to go, but of course they don't want me to get on a plane to go there. But I'm going to be going skiing again, and I don't know where all that snow's coming from, because I was told quite some years ago there would be no snow in the Alps. If you go back 1960s, the oil supply would run out in 10 years, and this wasn't just some random people saying this on the internet. It didn't exist then. That was on the front page of newspapers. That was serious people saying this. 1970s, the fear was an ice age, wasn't it? It wasn't about global warming. In 1980s, it was all about acid rain. All our crops would be destroyed. We'd all die because of starvation. 1990s, it was the ozone layer. Now, we did deal with that, and that was again proper scientific work to deal with that in terms of the actual. But then 2000s, all the ice caps will be melted in 10 years. Still there 23 years later, and irreversible climate change in 12 years of what we were told in the 2010s. We're told again and again these things. They don't come true, and this is all because it's based on climate modelling. And as I say, we saw what happened with modelling of what could happen in a pandemic from Neil Ferguson, but the models that all of this is based on, they all depend on an awful lot of very skewed, very specific assumptions, don't they, about what's going to happen. And if you put those assumptions in, you will get these devastating outcomes.
Yes, I mean, the key point is the so-called climate sensitivity assumption. Now, we know how much the doubling of carbon dioxide would warm the atmosphere. It's a fixed number. It's not very big. It doesn't get you anything like enough warming to be dangerous. But we also know that there are feedback mechanisms that could increase or decrease that number. And if you run those uncertainties, and they come from water vapor and clouds and albedo and all these other effects, you end up with lots of different potential answers. Now, we also know that over the last 30 years, they have consistently selected numbers that have proved to be too high. The observations show that those assumptions are being too high, that actually climate sensitivity is much lower than expected. And when you plug that in, you find that there is no net risk from climate change.
And this is the key thing. Even if you accept that climate's going to be warming, that's fine. That's fine.
Which I do. Denying climate change or man-made climate change.
We're coming out of an ice age, for goodness sake. And even if there is a man-made aspect of it, there is also a benefit to that man-made aspect, which is 80% of all the fuel we use is fossil fuel. And actually, it means that people have cars and planes and fridges and hospitals and heating and aircon and light and all of those things that make human life wonderful. This is bringing forward net zero targets. 2050, I think, is insane. Bringing forward net zero to 2040, even remotely achievable?
I don't think so. I think all the sensible people looking at this, people like Václav Smil in Canada, are saying it's very hard to do a very rapid energy transition of this kind.
And why would we want to?
Yes, and nuclear could do it, particularly with fusion, particularly with small modular reactors, but not in a hurry. Better to do it properly. And renewables are really, frankly, just a waste of time. And, just to give you an example of that, a headline today in the paper that Drax wants more subsidies for burning wood in Yorkshire because it's so-called renewable. That's that's a renewable?
Yeah, I know. This is the insanity of it all. Lord, really, we lost so much time at the beginning with the problem with the line. I'm so sorry we didn't get longer. Do come on again soon and talk.